Friends, the mysterious story of Alcatraz doesn't end here. If you've watched part 1, you'll remember how America's most secure prison, known as the Inescapable prison, once held for dangerous inmates whose brains and courage changed history forever. Allen West, Frank Morris, the Anglin brothers. These 4 prisoners spent months digging through the walls of their cells, creating dummy heads to fool the guards, and even building a secret workshop above the prison, all to bring their master escape plan to life. The guards and officials had no idea that such a daring plan was unfolding right under their noses. But the big question is, did these 4 men actually risk everything to cross the icy waters and violent waves of the Pacific Ocean? Or did their story end right there? If you've watched part 1, share in the comments which moment shocked you the most. And now, without wasting any more time, let's move on to part 2, where we uncover how this impossible escape attempt stunned the entire world. They prepared dummy heads using toilet paper, soap, and toothpaste, and to make them look more realistic, they painted them and added hair on the heads, which Clarence Anglin had collected, while cutting the hair of prisoners in the prison salon. Now, whenever they had to stay outside their cells at night to work inside the utility corridor in their secret workshop, they would place their respective dummy on the bed, cover it with a blanket up to the neck, and stuff clothes inside it in the shape of a body. From outside the cell, the guards would think that the prisoners were sleeping. In this way, by finding a trick to stay out of their cells, the 4 cunning prisoners started making many necessary items in their secret workshop to escape. They stole a lot of materials from the kitchen, laundry, and workshop, and prepared many essential things. They had made life jackets and a rubber raft from more than 50 raincoats, the idea of which they got from a magazine they had. To inflate the raft, Frank Morris used a musical instrument called a concertina, which he often played. In addition to this, paddles for the boat were also prepared from pieces of wood and stolen screws. While in the preparation of several months, they had already managed to do so much at the same time. They also began loosening the ventilation shaft located at the top of the cell house through which they had to escape. In this way, their escape plan was almost complete. Now all that remained was to see whether their plan would succeed or fail like the others before them. Like every other day, the 11th of June 1962 was also a normal day for Alcatraz. After sunset, all the prisoners ate dinner in the mess hall and returned to their respective cells. Shortly after that, as part of the daily routine, the guards peeked into each cell to count the prisoners. And around 9:30 p.m., the prison lights were turned off for the inmates to sleep. Until now, everything seemed normal. But what was about to happen next was going to change the history of Alcatraz forever. This night was about to shatter the reputation of Alcatraz into the ground. Immediately after the lights went off, the leader of this plan, Frank Morris, told his companions that tonight they had to. That very night they had to carry out their plan and escape from there. After that, they each removed the ventilation grill in their cell and began taking out the concrete cement around it, which they usually replaced after sneaking back inside. Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin, within a short while, managed to cross through the vent, coming out of their cells and into the corridor behind. But Allen West was still struggling to remove the cement near his vent, which had hardened. While giving him some time, the others began collecting all the equipment from their secret hideout. Everything was ready, but West still couldn't fully open the hole in the wall to get out. His companions tried to give him some help from the backside of the wall, but it seemed that fate was not on Allen West's side that night. When too much time had passed, the 3 of them made the decision to leave their friend behind and move ahead. The 3 prisoners carried all their belongings and, using the pipelines installed inside, climbed up to the 30-foot high cell house roof. After opening the ventilation shaft, the 3 of them emerged onto the rooftop. At that moment, fog surrounded the area, and the silence of the night spread all around. Other than the prison and tower lights, darkness lay everywhere. With extreme caution, without making the slightest sound, they crossed the 100-foot roof and then hung onto a pipe fixed down to the ground, slowly making their way down. From there, carefully evading the eyes of the guards stationed on the watchtower, they managed to cross 2 12-foot high barbed wire fences that surrounded Alcatraz. Step by step, with great care, they finally reached a part of the shore that was outside the range of the tower lights. After this, they inflated the raft they had made from raincoats, using a musical instrument's concertina as a pump, set it into the water, put on their life jackets, and in the cover of darkness, cutting through the rough waves, they escaped from the world's strongest prison, Alcatraz. The entire Alcatraz was still asleep, and the guards who were keeping watch had no idea that right under their noses 3 prisoners had already fled. But at that same moment, one man's chest was burning with devastation. That man was Allen West, who, after hours of struggle, had finally managed to break free from his cell. But by the time he reached the roof, when Allen West finally climbed up to the roof and peered around, he realized that too much time had already passed. His companions had escaped Alcatraz without him. With a heavy heart, he returned quietly to his cell. The morning of June 12, 1962, brought with it a shock that rattled all of America. When the prison staff gathered the inmates for the morning count, they discovered that 3 prisoners were missing. Guards rushed to their cells and from the outside saw the men lying under their blankets, seemingly asleep. But when their calls got no response, the guards opened the cells. One stepped inside and struck what appeared to be a sleeping head with his baton, only for it to crash to the floor, shattering its nose. It wasn't a real man at all. It was one of the lifelike dummies the 3 had left behind in their beds. Pulling back the blankets revealed stuffed clothing and towels used to form bodies. Then, as the guards inspected more closely near the vents, they saw a large hole in the wall, leading directly into the sealed utility corridor behind the cells. Pushing inside, they found the secret workshop the prisoners had built. And climbing up to the ventilation shaft, the guards discovered fresh footprints leading onto the roof. The picture became clear. 3 inmates had broken free of the rock. The fugitives were gone. Alarms blared instantly, and the entire prison was locked down. Every corner of Alcatraz was searched with urgency. Alongside the prison guards, the FBI and even the army rushed in, launching a massive manhunt. The land around the island and the waters of the bay were scoured, but there was no sign of the escaped convicts. Meanwhile, Allen West was interrogated. From the very beginning, he had been part of the escape plan, and when the guards searched his cell, they found a dummy head there too, just like the others had left behind. Under questioning, West didn't hesitate. He confessed everything and revealed the entire plan. Just 2 days after the escape, on June 14th, a handmade paddle was discovered on the island's south coast. On the same day, a small rubber packet was also found containing family photographs and letters belonging to the Anglin brothers. A few days later, investigators recovered a torn piece of the raft on the shore near the Golden Gate Bridge, and about 50 yards from Alcatraz itself, they found a fully inflated life jacket clearly belonging to one of the escapees. The Coast Guard, police, FBI, and the Army had uncovered all of these items, but not a single escaped convict was ever found. Taking into account the bad weather that night, the freezing waters surrounding Alcatraz and the stormy waves, investigators concluded that while the 3 men did escape the prison, they likely never survived the waters. Their raft must have capsized midway, drowning them and scattering their belongings. And even if by chance they had survived the treacherous bay, they had no money, no shelter, and no reliable means of traveling further. Stealing their way through the mainland would have been nearly impossible, given that their faces were now everywhere. Warrants had been issued in their names, and their photographs were published everywhere. Because of this, any attempt to steal, travel, or even appear in public would have led to their immediate capture. What further strengthened the belief that they had died was an incident that occurred about a month after the escape. On July 17, 1962, a Norwegian cargo ship passing through the waters near San Francisco reported that its crew had seen a body floating about 20 miles northwest of the Golden Gate Bridge. The corpse was dressed in prison clothes. However, the crew did not inform the FBI on that same day, which meant that no immediate search could be carried out. By the time investigators received the information and searched the reported area, no body was ever found. Taking all of this into account, the investigators leaned toward the conclusion that the men had drowned and perished in the bay. But still, there were certain things. Mysterious details that kept alive the possibility that all 3 convicts had, in fact, survived. That's it for this video. The mystery of the Alcatraz escape still lives. Did they survive or not? We'll uncover more in the next part, coming soon. We work hard to bring you these stories, so please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It really motivates us. Drop your questions in the comments and we'll reply as soon as possible. Stay tuned.